Hi, all. Thanks so much for watching Making Healthcare Work for You, Different Perspectives and Empowering Solutions. I'm Stephanie Fields, and today I'm here with my co-host, Dr. Apoorv Gupta, and we are welcoming Steve White, who is the founder of the PC in Washington State. Thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So, Steve, you and I met a month or so ago, and I was fascinated with your story because you started from your own personal health journey of having concussions through football, dealing with more seizures, and a point that really kind of became intolerable. And you said there has to be a better way. So, why don't you tell us how you use this comprehensive approach to create your own health solution that led to founding the PC Clinic?
I think there's a couple key points. Is that that everybody faces problems. Everyone has troubles, and I think in our society we have a tendency to just say, "Well, I have this problem, and that's what it is, and I have to just live with it, and it's life." And I think I was doing that most of my life. My life was a disaster in many ways, and that's a whole nother show to talk about. But it was. But I, I hit, like you said, I hit a point where I could not work anymore. I could not do anything. I was having seizures usually once a week to 10 days around that area. Every night was a disaster. My cognitive function, I used to joke, you go to the neurologist and they make you do this MOCA test. And every time I go in, the score would be lower, and and it came to one time where I couldn't recognize a rhinoceros. And for some reason, that got me. I don't know why, but I was just like, that was the one spot. I was like, are you kidding me? I can't remember what this thing's called. I joked with her because I did go write it on my hand, and the next time I came in at the front door, I said rhinoceros. So I was ready for her, and she said that actually meant I was still thinking to be able to do that. But anyway, long story short, I had gone from like, I don't know what the first scores were. They're like 29, 30. I had gone down to 17, 16. And that was just devastating. I had a meeting with her, and she said, you're getting down to where an area that could become nonverbal. And I was like, wow, this is just too much. So the nights and that time was just a real bleak period. And frankly, I came back here to Kennewick because my mom and dad were in their early 90s or right at 90, and I thought I want to go spend some time with them. I really felt like it was over. Um, and I hit this point where it's like, and this is why I always say caring is the healthiest thing you can do. Because I hit this point getting here that somebody needed to care for my mom and dad. And I hit this thing that was like, man, I may not be the best man for the job, but I'm the man with the job type thing. And I'm going to have to do something. And I really hit a point once where I was kind of lost in the mountains. Long story. I have a service dog named Poppy uh, who saved me. So that's like a whole another fun story. But I came out of those mountains walking out about 6 miles, holding on to her tail, and I just got to a point. I was like, man, I can't do this. This is horrible. This is just ridiculous. And am I really going to go down just crying like I was every day? Am I just going to go down in the corner, sitting there, just feeling sorry for myself? Or, and it's kind of like this surgeons came back from when I was a kid. It was like, or am I going to go down driving the ball? It's like if I'm gonna lose this game, I'm gonna give it my all. And I love research, and I was having trouble being able to read and to research. But I set out and said I was going to study 8 hours a day, um, and I love banging on doors, and I did a good job of that. I'd call cardiologists in London and people at University of California, San Diego, which became very good friends of mine, some of the neurologists there. And I started asking questions of like, what can we do? And, I got a lot, and I do mean a lot of nothing. You can do nothing. But every once in a while, I run into someone and say, well, here's a certain modality, here's a certain treatment, here's a certain nutritional program, here's some certain events and things that you can do. And I came to a conclusion, like I was sharing with you, not one would make the difference. It had to be all of them. And so the job of getting healthy becomes 24/7. And that's what I did. I started getting at it. At the time, I didn't own this athletic club. I would go down to the river, move the ice to the side, and dive in and do that every morning. And I started my morning off about 4 a.m. and I just started working at it. But what I found was that life started changing, and it's like even before I started getting better, I could feel my emotions getting better, right? And so soon, other people started looking and saying, "What are you doing?" And I started helping other people. I had a kind of a mentor friend, a guy named Carl Cadwell, who was one guy that believed that I could get better, and that one guy made a difference because maybe I could, right? So anyway, I had, long story short, is I had 70 some percent gain in cognitive function as far as the cognitive, what do you call it, cognitive tracks test that you can't really cheat on. And I started getting better and better, and then pretty soon other people wanted to do it, and I started helping other people do it, and that's where the PC became the PC, and I acquired the PC, I guess about 5 years ago, and our saying is play hard, live well, because that's part of the thing is to totally enjoy what you're doing. But I was out on a quest of saying caring, because I really felt caring for others became the healthiest thing that drove me of getting up every morning and getting after it, is that I wanted to make a difference in somebody else's life. And frankly, I talked to a lot of neurologists, a lot of neuroscientists that said, well, I don't know if we can really say that caring is the healthiest thing you can do. And I start to believe it was true. It's like you start living off of oxytocin versus dopamine hits, like everybody else is hitting out there. And when you start to care for people, just like what happened to me, they would start getting better. I would feel the pump from helping somebody, and then a third person would see it happen and they would feel better. And all of a sudden you started to get this community going, and that's where it really started. We started finding out that we could make a difference and launch what we did.
Some of the things that you said, your friend Carl believing in you, being that one person, really reminded me of Danny Sands and Dave DeBronkart. And then what he was just saying about the caring for other people and seeing somebody care, the third party, reminded
Right.
me of the work that Dr. David Freiberg does.
Right. Well, the thing that I also found is like people would sit there and say, well, what are you going to try to change the world? Whatever. Well, I'm changing my world. And it's like, it didn't, I've started and I've taught other people this, is that it didn't have to be some big thing. I'm going to start some new charity or whatever. It could be as little as carrying the bags out for a lady at Walmart, but writing it down that day and saying, this is what I did good today. I was on this earth for a reason today. Right. And as those things started compounding, they don't have to be like this revolutionary, big thought. It's just start living life with purpose, and living life, not just with purpose, but on purpose, if you will. It's like once you start, everything you're doing is on purpose. And that's the thing that I started to do with my brain, is that every thought was going to be on purpose. Now, you can't do it, but it's a task that is almost impossible. But you will find yourself starting to control your thoughts. And for me, emotions were just all over the map. So all of a sudden, I could start controlling my emotions, start controlling what I was doing. And so once you start living on purpose, all of a sudden you start living with a purpose, right? Things change.
Wow. There's so much to unpack there, Steve. I'm really taking it all in. I love your story. It's incredibly inspiring, invigorating. It gives me a lot of hope. I can only imagine the people that you've actually helped, and I'm so excited that our viewers are going to be able to get to hear about your story, because I can appreciate how they will be feeling about it. I just want to unpack it a little bit more, Steve, so we're really clear, maybe as clear as can be, because it may not be completely clear. There were a few things that you said that I just wanted to clarify. One is, it sounded like you went to a lot of medical practitioners, and most of them pretty much told you, well, there's nothing we can do. But then some did give you some advice that you researched and followed. But ultimately, you wound up coming up with your own regimen. It sounds like some kind of a regimen you came up with that was not really necessarily derived from medical practitioners or medical science. Maybe that's question number one. And then two, where did the caring enter into that? Was the caring your coming home and taking care of your parents? Is that what started off, or was caring for yourself? But was that also advice that, a random practitioner gave you and you incorporated? So I'd like to just understand a little bit more of what is this regimen you started off with, and how it came about, how it was supported or not by the science and by the practitioners, and then where exactly did caring start to enter into the equation?
Yeah, I don't think I ran into a practitioner that gave me our protocol, if you will. But there are a lot of people doing a lot of the same things. I've seen it coming around. I would read about something about photobiomodulation. There's a transcranial photobiomodulation research was out of University of Durham. I'd read about that and I'd say, okay. And I'd find the person who did this and knock on the door. And many times it was amazing how some of the smartest people in the world are actually pretty nice people. Would share with me what they were doing, and I would say, okay, we're going to start incorporating that. There was a lot of research on hyperbaric chambers, so I started going down that road. And then I started trying to figure out what is it that takes place in a hyperbaric chamber that makes a difference. Because one of the things that I wanted to do is I did not want to build a program where I got to say, oh, it's going to cost you $50,000 to get all this stuff together. So in every case, we started looking at what was the cause, what was it really doing in that modality, and we would look at what are the alternatives. What's the person going to do that can't go into a clinic? Because at the time, I was flat broke, and I had one clinic. I won't name it, but it was a clinic in Colorado, and it was like $60,000. And I was like, yeah, I can't even work right now, and I'm going to pay $60,000, and I'm going to go stay there. There was one in Arizona that was a hyperbaric chamber place, and it was like $250 a session. And it was like the everything I'd read on the research is that you needed to be in a hyperbaric chamber at least 40 times, but mostly 60 to 90 times. Add it up. I mean, people can't afford this. So what takes place in a hyperbaric chamber? What's actually happening that we could reproduce? So we do have those things here at the clinic. We have hyperbaric chamber. We have a very, I think, a great, what I like to say, acute program that you can get in and you can kind of get your started. But when you get started, your coaches are working to teach you what you can do at home, what you can do throughout the day. The one lesson I got to was nothing out of all the things that I'd find around the world, nothing was going to get me better in the hour a day I did it. It's the other 23 hours that matter. So yes, our program, you might find yourself here for a few hours, but we're trying to get you out of here. And once we get you out of here, we can get you stabilized in a situation. For instance, one thing that I really believe in is oxygen contrast therapy. Um, the brain, and 1,000 times more than I know about this. So my layman kind of vibe on this is that most of the circulation of the brain is in very small capillaries, right? I'm trying to get blood flow, more blood flow in the brain. And everybody's talking about trying to get more blood flow, getting the oxygen into the brain. And so oxygen contrast therapy, I had read actually from the University of Tel Aviv, he was talking about the fact that, you can, CO2 is a vasodilator. Oxygen is a vasoconstrictor. So one of the reasons why hyperbaric chambers seem to take so long to help you is because you're constricting. And so every session has to be a long session, and it takes a while to get it to really work into the brain very well. So I went to an oxygen contrast therapy where I learned it from Soma, from Wim Hof, from different areas like that. There's a company called Livo2 that has an oxygen contrast machine. And we started going through a kind of high altitude training to get it to dilate. And then we smack it with oxygen. We go back, we dilate it again, smack it with oxygen. But I started learning how to do that without machines. So yeah, we would look around, we'd find these different modalities, we'd bring them together. Now you hear, and I'm not saying we invented anything. I don't believe we invented it. Our protocol is just our protocol, but now you're seeing like Brecca talk in a lot of the same terms of what they're doing. You hear a lot of groups out there that are going down some of the same areas of trying to get oxygen into the brain. It was just simple, and you'd understand this again better than I do. We try to get the neurons excited, whether it's working out. We use again, we use transcranial photobiomodulation. We use frequencies. We have a really cool machine that I kind of developed myself that has sound waves on the back of it. We have a whole body vibration. The people that I got the whole body vibration machine from had all these things that it did. What I know is whole body vibration causes blood flow. Blood flow is what I'm trying to get going. But through those processes, we try to get the neurons excited. Once we get it excited, we try to flood it with oxygen. We once we flood it with oxygen, there was one research I saw from MIT where they talked about 40 hertz and causing the amyloid plaque to recede, but it was transient, right? For the most part, it's transient. It comes back. Well, I thought while it's open, that's when we want to retrain the brain. So we get it all excited. We in our minds anyway, we're thinking we've got it to recede. We've got things to open up in there. And so we do what we call brain hit, which is, you hear of a hit. Well, we do a hit, but we're also playing chess and we're doing different games and different things while we're doing it. And you watch people's cognitive function get better. So I don't, again, University of California, San Diego guys were saying, well, you need to have more research to prove what you're doing. And I'm like, you guys are the research guys. I'm not a pro at this. We're just doing it. And on a daily basis, we're getting people in there and going through this protocol. And then there's diet. And then there's, it's everything all the way through. From the minute we wake up in the morning, we start our protocol. It's gratefulness. It's part of the reason why I came to caring, which was your other question, was I found research that about gratefulness, right? And when I first started, I was so down on life. I swear I get up and I take my morning walk at sunrise. Is really important to do it right away. I do my morning walk and I sit there and say, well, I'm thankful for my dog. I'm thankful for the blue sky, and that'd be it. I didn't even have the capabilities to expand on that. And then I watched myself over a period of time. All of a sudden, I could spend 5 minutes telling you how thankful I was about my dog. I could tell you, and you felt this part of your brain changing. And to me, what I was trying to do is that, again, in kind of my cartoon brain, is that my thoughts, if I say I'm going to walk out that door, my brain says, okay, right? Or let's rephrase it. I'm going to go to the front door of my offices. My brain would say, okay, sure. And then it wants to jump out the window, run around the building, go over it. It's lost trying to get that one process. So I have to sit there and get it to say over and over again, front door, path, front door, path, front door. And when I start doing that, you start building new pathways. And I really believe part of that is in the belief you're doing that to yourself. You're getting yourself to do that, and subsequently starts happening. Well, that's how caring was. When I started realizing that by caring, you're releasing oxytocin, which was a better chemical than what I was dealing with, which was antidepressants and dopamine and so on. So I started out, just doing cold plunge. Cold plunge, you get a release of about, they say somewhere 200% more dopamine. So I was trying to get an easier, and it's not for just when you're in the water, it's for a couple hours after. So that replaced my antidepressants, was doing the cold plunge. And then I found cold and heat. I started realizing with the heat, I would get the, BDNF release, I would get the heat shock protein. And so, but it wasn't just doing it, it was also the thought process while you're doing it. You didn't just get to sit in there and talk about, what was on TV today. You're thinking, you're processing, and you're trying to think on purpose of what you're doing. So this process started going, and then caring, it started with the fact that I realized, I actually am a Christian myself, and I came to this point, I was like, I'm still on this earth for a reason. What is it? I have no idea. And I'm not trying to say just that's a Christian thing, but I'm just saying, period. Everybody needs to have that feeling. But I started realizing that I had no purpose in this world. So I had to start getting purpose. And I felt like when I was here, caring was my purpose. And caring I had some guys say, so what is your cause? And I said, caring is our cause. Just period. Caring is the cause. It's actually probably why we're on this earth, is to learn to care. So once we started getting that, I watched myself and I watched other people get better. Guys will walk in, they're like, man, I had a guy about 3 years ago who had stage 4 cancer, and he's like, man, I don't know why I'm even here, you know, because I'm supposed to die the next month. He had just come from being in the ICU, and he lived 3 more years. He just passed away. He lived 3 more years, but it was 3 years that he thrived because all of a sudden he had purpose again. Like he was on this earth for a reason still. So to me, caring is the reason we're here. And once we start learning that and we start teaching that, it's amazing how you start getting better. So as selfish as that sounds, you're actually caring for other people, but you're getting your own hit. And why can't kids learn that? That was one of the things that got me, is that, when I was a kid, I wanted to play pro football. Or I was teaching, I'm a football person, so I was doing a all-star game and I was coaching. I asked the kids, I said, what do you want to be when you grow up? All these kids were like, oh, I want to be a rap star. I want to be a football player. If they said a cop, it wasn't a cop. They wanted to be a SWAT officer. They didn't say they wanted to be in the Army. They wanted to be the Navy SEALs. They all had this picture of what cool was. And so I started trying to teach them, and we do in our clinic right now with our kids here, and we have a lot of kids, that cool is caring. You want to be a stud? You need to learn to care. And now all of a sudden, so you start hearing people say, I want to be an EMT. Oh, now you're talking. Now it's cool. They start coming with these different ideas of what they want to do with their life, because they start to understand that caring is the healthiest thing you can do, and fun.
That's amazing. And so going to the clinic, so after you have this transformation yourself, you found this clinic, now that you've acquired a bunch of different ones, you see 15,000 patients a week. And then you also have a team of doctors who spend 45 to 60 minutes with these patients. You do primary care, you have the health coaches. So, what does it look like? You also accept insurance, you do cash pay. You also don't make people pay if they can't afford to pay, because you don't want this sort of transformation to be limited to only people who can afford to access it. So, what does it look like when somebody comes to you? Do they, is there a certain protocol that they go to? What are they doing? Are they going to see the primary care specialist, primary care doctor, and then formulating a plan based on their conditions that includes all of these different elements that you had? And then who's forming a home team? Is the home care team? Is that somebody that is rallying around the patient, or is the patient going to form their team based on what you're telling?
Yeah, so everybody's everybody's an individual. It's not like one thing that here's our protocol for everybody. Everybody has different. So you do start out and seeing a medical professional. If they can afford blood work and if they can afford some things, we like testing. But I also think that I have some concerns about testing in a lot of ways, because I can do my math a little bit, and I can go on a board and I can look, and I can take cancer and go like, well, there's like 90 some percent of it is basically 4 different types of cancer that people get. And you start looking at these different group areas, if you will. Dementia, I personally believe it's above 90% of people have a form of dementia, um, are can be reversed. It can be slowed, can be reversed. And that's the other thing, is we don't think that we're some like miracle workers. We have some kind of juju juice that makes the difference. We know fighting hard is what makes a difference. But what my point was is that you take those people and put them in categories and stuff, but at the end of the day, we want to focus on fixing it. I think I got frustrated when I was sick. It's like they would want to do another test, and I'm like, I finally did get to a point where I say, okay, in doing this test, is it going to change how you're going to treat me? And so many times they say, no, it's not. Well, then I don't need to be tested. I don't need to know my MOCA score went down more. I know it. I feel it. And we really try to teach our people to understand that and try to minimize the testing. I do like testing. And, we do have people come here and we do like certain types of tests. But what I'm trying to get at is that we get into the program, they're going to look for counterindications. They're going to look for things that would keep them from being able to do some of the programs that we want to do. But we're mostly focused on that session with the doctors about getting them on their program. Then they'll meet with a coach, and we really believe in teamwork. I believe teams is everything. It's like, there's the biggest growing population in America right now is what I call orphan elders. There's a lot of people in this world that are all alone and fighting it on their own. And even within their own, they could have a full family and they're still fighting on their own. So we create a team. And we realize that when a person starts, you can't just expect them to be motivated like I am right now, right? You're just not. So we give them a coach, and the coach is usually a mentor. If I look at our coaches right now, I can walk in there and it's just like makes me want to cry, because there's just like, you get one guy, 2 years ago tried suicide. Now he's a coach. I have a guy in there that about 3 years ago, a young athlete that literally fell over dead. I mean, his heart stopped. It was a kind of a anomaly that happened, but he was without oxygen for 4 minutes. When he first came to us, he had an arm that didn't really move, his leg didn't really move, he couldn't talk. Now he runs like 5 miles a day, and he can coach other people. So they're actually not just coaches. Many times they're mentors. They've been through it. So we realize when someone walks in, we will say to them, listen, this first few weeks, I'm going to do the thinking for you. I'm going to get you on track. I'm going to get you going down the road, and then until you start to learn to think in the right way. So a team is really important. And that team, we realized, had to start at home. One of the problems in our medical system right now is that there's just not a connection from home to the hospital. It's like, I can't remember the number of people who go to emergency room that don't even need to go to emergency room, or go to emergency room and wait 6-7 hours, or urgent care and wait 6-7 hours, which isn't too urgent. But this is just our system. If we can start it at home, we can create the team at home, and we can integrate the medical technology and the other information to the home, then we got a chance. So we help them create a home team. The home team is interesting. I did this. I've done it many times, but it's just fun to watch that all of a sudden the neighbor lady wants to be a part of that team and help that person. As senior citizens, let's talk senior citizens. You get people that are in a assisted living facility or a memory care, something like that. The average is like 12 patients to one caregiver. And I go around all the time. I like to say I go undercover, because I go in some of these places at night, and many times it's 32 people to one caregiver. And if you do the hours and you add up, you say, okay, this one's a 2-person transfer, this person's got incontinence problems, this person's got, and you go, there's no way this poor lady is going to be able to help these people. We flip the script. We keep them at home. Like with my father, it was costing about $12,000 in a memory care kind of center a month. And we took him home. We created a home team, which all of a sudden, like I said, a neighbor person, a person from the church, a nephew who wasn't doing anything, all these people start become part of the caring team. And we have to educate them and facilitate this too. But we do that. But all of a sudden you ended up with 12 caregivers for one person. And they all have specific things they're doing. It might be, I'm just going over there to have coffee with them. Someone else is going over there. I'm just going over there to give them a shower, and the home can hire anybody they want. So instead of paying $300 for this RN to come give them a shower, the nephew's giving them a shower or whatever it is. And so we believe creating that home team is huge difference. And like I was saying about fourth quarter, one thing that hit me is that in football, we always go fourth quarter and we get all fired up about life, in the fourth quarter, because that's when we know is the difference maker. In school, you go to fourth quarter and you're going, man, I better get my studies together. I got a better ace this test. It's fourth quarter. Fourth quarter is important. But where did we get where fourth quarter in life wasn't important? It's like, what are we teaching our grandkids when we say, okay, grandpa is not doing very well, we're going to put him in a home. You just got to get him out of here. What are we teaching the kids about caring? And in fact, that grandpa has 90 years of knowledge and experience that could share with that little kid. So I think it's causing this problem in our families. But when you keep grandpa at home, we do something really weird here. We keep him at home. Everybody starts helping him. And I'll talk in a minute about how our medical integration gets in there too, because you obviously have to have the medical information. But what we also do to grandpa is we say, okay, grandpa, what are you on this earth for? And pretty soon, it's so cute. I watch my mom do this, is that all of a sudden she'd say, well, I got 3 people coming over and I got to tell that one gal, she's going through a divorce. This is not the end of the world. I got to tell her, And all of a sudden she's caring for them. And she doesn't think of like, oh, I have all these people that are just like have to take care of me. No, she thinks she's taking care of all them. And she is. If you took that team, all those people go away going, man, I can't wait to go over there today. Right. So again, that's why caring is so important. And guess what? I take my mom. My mom had a GFR of 3. She had fallen and broken her hip and her pelvis. She had a Jefferson fracture, which is a straight cut across, what is it? The first or second. But anyway, it's horrible. Let's put it that way. And she's 90 years old, right? And in the emergency room, we had life flighted her out. But before we life flighted out, the doctor said to me, said to her, went up to her and said, Mrs. White, I just want you to understand, you're never going to be weight bearing again. And you probably got somewhere in the 6 to 10 days to live. And I said, doctor, can I talk to him? We went outside and I said, what are you doing? He goes, well, I have a moral obligation to tell her the truth. And I was like, is that the truth? And he goes, well, yeah, I mean, this is and my expertise is the truth. And I said, you don't know that. You don't know what's going to happen with her. And I of course kind of lost it. I get pretty emotional. But anyway, I walked back in there and mom said, did he say I'm dying? And I said, not today. And I didn't tell her a lie. I just said, not today. Well, I told her not today for the next 14 months. I watched her because of this thing, like all of a sudden home teams and what was going on at home. I watched her walk down the end of the driveway 2 weeks later. Um, she started thriving because all of a sudden she realized, man, I got to get serious about my fourth quarter. I got a lot to share with people. I got grandkids. I got neighbor ladies that are in trouble. She's always worried about her neighbor lady. But the fact is like caring became what was healthy for her. And those last, we didn't do any miracle. We just had good care. She could come to the clinic here. And then how we integrate the home. We've developed the technology we worked on ever since I started. Everybody else has it now too, but we have a AI technology. We have a whole concept around it. But when you can get 24/7 access to medical information from us. So you call, but it's not just like some esoteric out there, somebody call center somewhere. You're calling and first you get an AI. The AI actually has proven to be 90% accurate, whereas the RNs were like in 30 or 50 to 60% accurate in talking to her. The AI can escalate it and say, okay, yes, she needs to talk to the nurse practitioner now. It can say, she needs to go to the emergency room. It just does a ton of stuff. Plus, they love talking to it, which is really fun. But it escalates in these different directions, and then what happens is now they can get on a video call immediately with the nurse practitioner and say, "Yeah, your temperature is 103, but we want to get some fluids in. You don't need to go in right now. Let's check back in a couple hours." So our medical team integrates into this home team. So home team is not just, hey, my buddies. It is this integration of the medical part of it. We have RN service that's 24/7. We have behavioral health services 24/7. And that integrates into it. But really what happens is that the people in that family, in that community start caring for each other. And then they, like I said, they come to the clinic. Mom would only probably come here once or twice a week. She didn't have to go anywhere. Our phlebotomists go to the house, things like that. But you watch how that home teams really took off.
I'm just sitting here blown away. I I don't even know what to say, Steve. You are just turning the healthcare system on its head, and God bless you for that. It's just incredible. I think unfortunately, the healthcare system, as we all know, has just become so frustrating, so challenging for people to deal with, and all too often we hear about all the limitations of what we can do, and then we frame it in this moral imperative language around, well, there's nothing more we can do for you, or you only have 6 days left to live. It's just ridiculous what we think we know on the basis of our limited medical science and experience. There's incredible stuff that the science and experience can do, but when we use it in this way that that you illustrated so pithily about the story about your mother. It's just kind of eye-opening as to the impact it can have in terms of taking hope away, taking courage away, taking the will power that's really required, to live that fourth quarter. So I'm just blown away by what you have to say. I guess if I do have a question, and I don't want this to kind of come across from a more compliance legalistic perspective, but I do have a question that since you're turning the whole healthcare system on its head, are there challenges that you're facing with respect to compliance, with respect to licensing, credentialing? Is the system pushing back in any way? I know there's a lot of medical process you've also embedded within the protocols. But give us a little bit of a sense of how the healthcare system is accepting what you have to offer.
So I've probably spent, no kidding, I mean, at least to me, this is a ton of money, but we spent probably over $100,000 with lawyers trying to make sure we are in compliance. We're not trying to buck the system. We're trying to find how to make the system plug in. So we play by the rules. One of the interesting points that did come up, though, and it took us a while to prove this, is that a home can hire anybody they want. And so if you wanted to hire the gal from Burger King to come over and help you, you can. And so we don't hire anybody, the homes do. But we do on the medical, everywhere where we have medical plugged in, we're towing the line. We're in Washington State, which is one of the harder states to do this in. And yes, there's times where I wish I could go further, wish there's other things we can do, but we stay in line with that, and it seems to be okay. But so yes, we have ran into it, but we have to comply. We're not trying to fight it, and we have some areas that are interesting, like you were saying, Stephanie, is that we it's free if you can't afford it. And we have been very blessed. My staff is always going, like, they try to get me to leave the room when someone says whether they can afford it or not, because I'll end up giving it to them. But we we don't just say, hey, if a person says they want it free, they got to say, okay, here's why, and here's what's going to go on. We call it scholarshiping. But we have about almost 26 or 7% of our people are free. And somehow we've been able to charge the rest. It's really interesting that I had one lady that was free, and it was probably about a $10,000 bill. She'd been in it for like a year. And after she was done, she went back to work, and then she came back and she paid $10,000 for somebody else to do it. So it's worked out, but that's really important to us. And something else I want to say with that is that with home teams, we want to share it. We want our system to be able to be used elsewhere. And we have a nice system that can be replicated in what we're doing. And again, that's not something, it was funny. A friend of Stephanie's that I talked to, I had him sign he said, we need to sign a non-disclosure for what you guys are doing and what's going on. When he got here, I gave him what I call a disclosure document. And our disclosure document basically states, you will share everything we're doing. You will tell every secret we have. And if anybody out there wants us to help them, we want to help them. So we're open to helping anybody implement the system that we have.
I love this. I love this. You have made my day, my week. This is the model for healthcare. We need to be trumpeting it from the ceilings and the roofs and wherever we can get on. I really love what you're doing, Steve. I'm hoping to learn more. Stephanie, thank you so much for bringing Steve into our world and for exposing me to this. This is amazing, amazing work.
I felt the same way the first time that I talked to him, and again listening to him, because what struck me is, we have an interview with Dr. Gordon Chen, one of the founders of ChenMed, and he's doing something similar in Florida, starting there, but it's about focusing on that, giving people purposeful years and incorporating all the things that you have, the primary care, the nutrition, the mental, the physical, all the things, and including building teams at home. And I thought it's amazing, you know, I loved it when Gordon talked about it, and I loved it when you talked about it. And in your case, it amazed me that it came from your personal experience of rock bottom really of what do I do? How do I live? How do I make this happen for me? And then you've gone on and built this without a medical background. And I find that part to be fascinating because it's not an easy field to navigate. So thank you so much for bringing your expertise here and talking to us and sharing your story. It's inspirational.
Thank you.
So inspiring. A tip of the hat, proverbially, prayers to you and for everything you've accomplished. Thank you for opening our eyes. And I'm really excited about getting this message out to everyone.
Thank
Thank
you
you
all
very
for
much.
watching. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, Stephanie.